I mean, you can't plan for everything, but you try your hardest and you put something together. And then when you just ignore it and fly by the seat of your pants, which, contributed to the fate of Kenny, I think in some ways, what I was kind of hoping for, though, and it kind of seems a little back and forth in some ways, as we're looking in hindsight, that was clarifying who's the authority when it comes to the big decisions. We saw court cases now that were thrown out because they would bat it back and forth. Well, it's Dina Hinshaw who brought this in. Well, no, it wasn't Dina Hinshaw. It was Premier Kenny who brought this in. In this case, it's talking about empowering the experts, but at the same time, empowering the legislature. Well,
I think it means they're taking the power out of the doctor's hands,
yes,
and they're giving it to elected officials.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right.
So
the responsibility should land on them.
So if the emergency happens tomorrow, it's Danielle Smith's problem to deal with.
That's the kind of clarity I think we need to see now and looking back, because it I think cost faith from the citizenship when they'd see both sides kind of finger pointing at each other whenever things went badly, or another side would take credit when, when numbers would go down, Premier Kenny would come out and say it was our government actions. And when the numbers would go up, oh, that was a Dina Hinshaw.
I mean, look, as a piece of prose, this is about as interesting as a long drink of warm water, okay? So it's not like people are going to be downloading it and sitting up at night by candlelight reading it. But I will say this, that anybody who does take the trouble to do that, if they were on the right side of the issue during the COVID years, they're going to take great encouragement that this has been written, and I would have to hope that will be adopted by the government of Alberta.
Well, an interesting thing, because it was one of the dumbest moves of them all, was the school shutdowns, the playground shutdowns. I mean, a year into it, we had some pretty solid evidence that whatever things COVID may be, children, thankfully, if they didn't have a bunch of other conditions, were virtually immune from it. They were not at risk. It was not killing kids. So it should have been the last place that we'd be shutting down. We got a break on this, let's embrace that and carry on with their education and let them play basketball and skateboard and play hockey. Yeah. But we didn't do that. But we might not be so lucky with the next one. So we got to be a little careful too. I mean, the Spanish flu, for example, decimated children. If we had something like that was infectious and really harming children, then closing schools would make sense.
The problem with this one, Corey, was it was an overreaction. Yeah. Right? I remember Premier Kenny talking about having to put body bags at McMahon Stadium.
Yes.
Right? I mean, come on.
Or the emergency hospitals that never
emergency hospital, the field hospitals, that was an SNC Lavalin scam too, I think. But you obviously you have to watch with interest, watch with concern, see what's happening, and then make your decisions. Back at the start of the COVID pandemic, every government overreacted at the same time, and it became a mess across the country.
So let's just remember why that happened, Dave. Everybody was, if you read the testimony given by Theresa Tam in February of 2020, before it was declared an emergency, she actually had a pretty good handle on what this was going to look like. She told the Parliamentary Health Committee that this was something that was going to affect older people more than younger people, and that is where they should be focusing their efforts. So that was in February. Then came March, and an epidemiologist in London named Dr. Neil Ferguson.
Yes.
Remember?
I know as well.
Okay, and he came out and said, we're all going to die in 3 months.
And he's got a long track record of bad predictions already.
But somehow or other, he is still the go-to guy for a situation like that. Yeah. And it so rattled the governments of Canada, and every other country, by the way, that all thought and reason was lost. We were not the only province that had a plan and abandoned it. Others did too. Spectacularly, the federal government did. And it also forgot everything that Theresa Tam had said before the thing was declared an outbreak. She was even saying masks aren't going to do you any good. And she hung on to that for probably 6 or 8 weeks after the declaration, until finally, I think, I'm speculating here, but I think somebody said, look, you either fall in line on this, or we can find ourselves a new chief public health officer, because this is the narrative. This is what we've committed ourselves to. Politically, we are now on this.